Greetings and salute, Elder Blacklight. The COVID-19, a sneak attack to King Alfred Rex 84. Sure thing that either you take the orders of the medical and the medical association and the scientists, or if you don't take that shot, the shot is going to be mandatory. Tracking is going to be mandatory. So this is the second part of King Alfred. Pay close attention.
I am. Preliminary memo, Department of Defense. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. The greatest concentration of the minority is in the deep south and eastern seaboard, the Great Lakes region, and the West Coast. While the national population exceeds that of the minority by more than 10 times, we must realistically take into account the following. 1. An estimated 40 to 50% of the white population will not, for various reasons, engage the minority during an emergency. 2. American armed forces are spread around the world. A breakout of war abroad means fewer troops at home to handle the emergency. 3. Local law enforcement officials must contain the emergency until help arrives, though it may mean fighting a superior force. New York City, for example, has a 25,000-man police force, but there are about 1 million minority members in the city. We are confident that the minority could hold any city it took for only a few hours. The lack of weapons, facilities, logistics, all already at a final disadvantage. Since the Korean War, this department has shifted minority members of the armed forces to areas where combat is most likely to occur, coordinating through combat as many combat-trained minority servicemen as possible. Today, the ratio of minority member combat deaths in Vietnam, where they are serving as, quote, advisors, unquote, is twice as high as the minority population ratio to the rest of America. Below is the timetable for King Alfred as tentatively suggested by the JCS, Joint Chiefs of Staff, who recommend that the operation be made over a period of 8 hours. 1. Local police and minority leaders in action to head off the emergency. 2. Countdown to 8 hours begins at the moment the President determines the emergency to be A. National, B. Coordinated, C. Of long duration. 8th hour. 3. County police join local police in the 7th hour. In the 6th hour, state police join county and local forces. The 5th, federal marshals join state, county, and local forces. 4th, National Guards federalized, held in readiness. Regular armed forces alerted, take up positions. Minority troops divided and detained along with all white sympathizers under guard. 8. That's in the 3rd hour, In the second hour, all minority leaders, national and local, detained. President addresses minority on radio, television, gives it 1 hour to end the emergency, the 1st, and then 0 hour, all units under regional commands into the emergency. 0 committee report.
That may be O committee, like the operational committee.
You may be right. A survey shows that during a 6-year period, production created 9 million objects, or 1,500,000 each year. Production could not dispose of the containers, which proved a bottleneck. However, that was almost 20 years ago. We suggest that vaporization techniques be employed to overcome the production problems inherent in King Alfred. Signed, Secretary of Defense.
I think that last little part of the O Committee report might be worth rereading, Nick, just because it's so cheap. It doesn't strike one at first, and I think listeners should listen very carefully to the language here. The units they're talking about are black people.
And they're talking, the production that they're referring to production of 20 years before, and we all know what this is supposedly is something written in the mid-60s, 20 years before that, of course, being during World War II, production being incapable of keeping up with the demand, so to speak. Again, reading from O Committee report, survey shows that during a 6-year period, production created 9 million objects, or 1.5 million each year. Production could not dispose of the containers, which proved a bottleneck. However, that was almost 20 years ago. We suggest that vaporization techniques be employed to overcome the production problems inherent in King Alfred.
Vaporization, of course, referring to liquidation.
Yes, and referring to not being able to get rid of the bodies fast enough, basically, to put it in simple terms. Again, we've gone through lengthy disclaimers of the King Alfred plan, but again, put into the context of...
But really contingency disclaimers,
yes,
that would be a
exactly.
good way of putting it.
But put into the context of what we know about Rex 84, what we know about Louis Jafrida's War College plans, then later updated by John Brinkerhoff, his deputy, Rex 84 and King Alfred begin to look more and more alike all the time.
And again, the remarkable treatment, again, when Dave Russell sent this to us, the very able and courageous researcher from whom we obtained this, the first copy was intercepted in the mail, never arrived. The second copy was intercepted in the mail and never arrived. The third one took a good 2 weeks to arrive, but to take a mail trip that should have taken a day or two at the most. And the fact that our network of informants has told us that this is in fact a real document, that John Williams was not able to come out and say so simply because of the controversial nature, led us to go with it at the time. We're glad we did, simply because now it is very obvious from the headlines that have emerged, this is a real policy, it is a real National Security Council contingency, and the similarity between the emergency, unquote, the 10 readiness centers, the 10 zones, and in particular one wonders about King Alfred and Rex 84. It is our feeling that at this point, the undivided energies of those researchers who operate in good faith should be devoted to determining, among other things, just whether or not the King Alfred plan is in fact the groundwork for Rex 84.
So, according to what we just heard, you got the Black Lives Matter, you got the not effing around, what's that guy name of? Grandmaster J. You got the militia. All of them is sparking a civil war. I believe all that stage is playing. And because the timing of the election, you know, with the COVID, them closing down the economy, then gradually bringing it back around the holidays, around Halloween, around Christmas, because they got to circulate that fake dollar, see. So all this is being planned. Timing is everything. After the election, it don't matter who wins it, there's going to be some sort of disruption again, and it's going to be havoc. So we're going to continue on with this King Alfred. There's a lot more left on that. And then we're going to get into a little bit more analyzing what's going on. This is Black Light.